PowerBoat Television is brought to you by Yamaha. Conquer water with Yamaha. Ford F-Series. Smart, tough, capable. And BoatBuys.com. Over 60,000 new and used boats for sale. This week, we are back in British Columbia to continue our cruise in Desolation Sound, located between the mainland and Vancouver Island. The island was named after Captain George Vancouver, and he himself named Desolation Sound in 1792 because it was, well, desolate, gloomy and barren in his eyes. He wasn't looking to get away from it all like boaters these days who head up to this neck of the woods. And to this day, it remains a place to enjoy unspoiled, natural beauty. And if that's desolate, so be it. The whole region is popular with people cruising up from Vancouver, Victoria, and Seattle. Or, like us, renting a charter boat from Desolation Sound Yacht Charters and beginning our journey from Comox, BC. Us being my father-in-law and me. Brian was integral into getting me into boating, and I finally had the opportunity to take him somewhere he'd never been. And this marks 10 years since his kidney transplant, so this was also a celebration cruise. P.S. Be an organ donor. Fittingly, there's no shortage of stunning scenery. We weren't fortunate enough to see whales, but it's not uncommon around these parts. Bald eagles, though, tons of them, and a whole whack of wild trawlers. Slow and steady cruising is the way to get around up here. A must-see spot is the Teekern Falls at the northeast corner of Teekern Arm. This small section is actually a provincial park. Hard to access, but that means it's protected. But you might have to wait your turn to get up close and personal with it. That's rocking along pretty good, eh?
It is. It's coming from the top of a mountain. I don't know what the speed of that would be, but it is coming over those rocks fast. I like how it falls out. We could almost put the bow under there, I think.
Made of the mist?
That is spectacular.
How cold do you think that is?
I don't know, but it would go good with your scotch. That's fresh glacier water.
Heading south and east around the southern tip of West Redonda Island, we chose to squeeze between it and the Martin Islands. It looks wide enough, but the GPS shows the deep passage is actually quite narrow. One of the frustrations when filming somewhere as magnificent as British Columbia is that photos and videos never truly do justice to such massive and awe-inspiring landscapes. This, for example, right here is East Redonda Island. And yeah, it looks pretty big on your TV. In real life, though, it is just dominating. The highest point right there is actually 1.6 kilometers high, or 5,220 feet. That's a big old island. Right now, we are smack dab in the middle of the Waddington Channel, which separates East Redonda Island from its sister to the west, surprise, surprise, West Redonda Island. Now, these names date all the way back to 1792, when Spanish explorers Valdez and Galeano first sighted them and gave them the name Isla Redonda, which means round island. You'd think it would be a little more creative, and yet, in Spanish, it sounds fantastico. We're doing a detour north to Pendrell Sound for a very particular reason. Yes, it's just as beautiful as the rest and just as private as much of this region we've cruised through. The few boats we've seen being swallowed up by the monstrous surroundings. So Pendrell Sound is a unique geographic anomaly for being where we are in Canada There's snow-covered peaks all around us. This is either, depending who you ask, the warmest saltwater in the Northern Hemisphere, the warmest saltwater north of Mexico, or the second warmest in the Northern Hemisphere. Whatever it is, the consensus is, this is super warm. So, in the name of science, oh, well, that's not hot tub warm, but that is definitely pool warm. And when you look up and see snow on a mountain peak, that's impressive. This is the perfect swimming spot. But to preserve our ratings, I will not strip down and jump in on camera anyway. Hey, look, a mountain. Cannonball! When we return to Desolation Sound later in the show, we'll check out one of the most popular and picturesque anchorages. And we hit up a small but very busy harbor.
Coming up, peace of mind boating with CITO, Canada's Marine Assistance Network. We've all heard a story or two of trouble out on the water. You may have even helped a friend out along the way with a boost or even a short tow. But what if there was no one around to help? Well, there is a Marine Assistance Network available in some regions called CITO that can provide some peace of mind. We caught up with Michael McRobb and Darren Alderton in Toronto to find out more about the CITO service.
CITO, Toronto. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing towing out of Toronto for 10 years, and I've been with CITO for 6.
Michael's boat wasn't the large tug we were expecting, but it turns out there's a good reason for that.
It is a little 20-foot bayliner. It's a perfect size for pulling in and out of the really tight marinas that Ontario has. National Yacht Club, which I tow into about a dozen times a year, has a 17-foot wide breakwater total. I used to have a 28-foot towboat. It was a little hard to turn around in there. The smaller the boat in the Toronto harbor, the better.
For towboats, it's an important requirement to have a little bit of speed. Do they have to go 20 or 25 knots, 30 knots?
The difference between a towboat and a tugboat is our response time. A tugboat is stuck at 7 knots. A towboat should go at least 20 to 25 knots. Our goal is to be able to be at anywhere in our designated tow area within an hour. If it's rough weather, it's going to take me a little longer to get out there.
Pulling into a calm channel, we stopped to check out some of the modifications Michael performed on the bayliner to make it more suitable for CITO duties.
I installed an 1.5 inches of extra support all the way around the stern so that the tow weight is distributed evenly to the whole boat. Then I had that tow post custom built to fit on the back of this boat.
We noticed there's a lot of gear on board as well to cover a range of situations.
I have submersible pumps on the boat. I have winches, come-alongs, heavy lift straps that could lift this boat right out of the water.
With years of experience and plenty of gear, CITO agents will often try to solve your problem before tossing you the rope.
We will sometimes be able to talk somebody through on how to be able to fix their boat so they don't need to tow.
The cost of CITO is reasonably inexpensive. I mean, a commander membership's about $105.
It's $100 for the year.
Right.
In Ontario.
And that covers you from when to when?
Covers May 1st, October 31st.
And what do you get with that membership?
You get 2 emergency tows and unlimited service calls. A service call is a prop unfouling, a battery boost, a fuel delivery, or a soft ungrounding. A soft ungrounding is you've hit a sandbar in Long Pond here. There's a couple of sandbars. You've hit the sandbar, you're stuck. I come up, it takes me less than 15, 20 minutes to pull you off. It's a soft ungrounding, that's free. Costs you nothing if you're a member. Probably a minimum of an hour, potentially an hour and a half if you're a non-member. It could cost upwards of $500 if you're a non-member just to get pulled off a sandbar.
There are 4 levels of membership available, with Commander being the starting point. The $200 Admiral package provides additional coverage on the West Coast and unlimited tows. The most expensive Explorer is still only $225 and provides coast-to-coast coverage even in areas not yet covered by CITO vessels. If you want details on specific coverage areas, they can be found on their website at c-tow.ca. We should note that free emergency tows are not necessarily back to your marina. They are the closest safe point of repair, which depends entirely on where you are when in need of assistance. Interestingly enough, the majority of calls are fuel or battery related and often can be solved without a tow. While there is no charge to bring you fuel, you do have to pay for any fuel supplied.
You can download the app for free whether you're a member or not.
Okay.
The app is available for everybody. It is hugely advantageous for us and very advantageous for boat owners. The app itself, when you open it up, it automatically comes up with the lat and long right at the very top. If you hit request assistance, you hit call CITO and send and call, and it will automatically send your lat and long to our dispatch.
If you are a CITO member, you can enter your contact info, boat make, color, marina details, etc., making it even easier to find you in the event of an emergency. But the app isn't just for emergencies. It can also connect you to any marine weather forecast in Canada, supply tide table information in coastal regions, and even provide some local buoy information.
It's a Google map. It's not a marine map that comes up, but it's preset to come up with anything to do with boats. All the Google search words come up, so you automatically get the little pin drop for all the marinas.
To find out exactly what happens when you use the app to request assistance, Steve was standing by around the corner with his CITO app ready to go, just waiting for our call.
You hit a button, send and call. It went right through. And you got our GPS stuff?
Yeah, we got all your GPS coordinates. Came through a text.
No way.
I joined Darren from CITO Windsor on their latest vessel.
Well, this is the Cherokee X fireboat. It has twin fuel injection 4.3s with Alpha 1s. Great little boat. We have 2 on fleet right now and have purchased another 3. CITO Windsor now covers Western Basin, Lake Erie, Detroit River, Lake St. Clair, and now we opened up CITO Sarnia, which is now St. Clair River and Lake Huron. We have 8 to 10 boats in the area, so every 20 nautical miles you have a CITO vessel from CITO Windsor or CITO Lake St. Clair or CITO Sarnia.
Really cool. And of course, you can shut both doors and keep yourself warm if you get a long journey. Some of these tow calls are pretty long.
The longest tow I've ever done is about 24 hours, 2 captains on board and nonstop.
Tow charges start when the operator leaves their dock. They can run 25 knots on their way out to you, but towing occurs at about 5 knots. That means the average tow call would take at least 4 hours. At $250 per hour without CITO, you can see just how quickly the tow costs start to add up.
CITO is a lot like health insurance. You hope you never have to use it, but it's really good to know it's there if you do need it.
To see these guys in action, we come to realize how much effort it takes to perform these services. You may never need marine assistance, but if you do, it's nice to know such a dedicated team is already on call. The 425 XTO provides OEMs with more power and a very clean install. In the spring of 2018, Yamaha dropped a bomb on the outboard market with something truly unexpected. We were invited south for a secret media reveal.
So we're here in Bridgeport, Alabama, taking an early peek at Yamaha's new 5.6-liter 425 XTO. This engine is brand new from the ground up, and it was really designed to push bigger boats. And the ultimate setup, of course, would be running quads. So this 43-foot Jupiter now has 1,700 horsepower.
The development story behind this engine is fascinating. When determining how to approach the power demands of an offshore market where boats over 40 feet now weigh well over 20,000 pounds, Yamaha, an engine company, didn't start with a new engine. Instead, they started with propellers. Very big propellers.
In fact, the thrust on these props can be as much as 140% more than the props on an F-350.
Big propellers help get big boats moving, but they also generate huge loads. Containing these loads in a hostile environment for long periods of time is no easy feat. Everything on the XTO is bigger and stronger, but also more efficient. Stronger shafts and gears, for example, required a bigger 6-inch gear case. While larger than the F-350 gear case, it actually produces less drag. By spraying fuel on the pistons, direct fuel injection helps cool them, allowing a very high 12.2 to 1 compression ratio, while at the same time burning less fuel.
So what does that really mean? We all know 4 1/4 horse. But the real story is torque, because to push a big prop, you need lots and lots of torque. And that torque turns into acceleration. This is a 12,000-pound boat loaded up with only 2 engines. That mid-range acceleration, it's just unbelievable.
To increase power, you typically add more air and more fuel. But Yamaha spent considerable effort optimizing engine efficiency, and the 425 horsepower XTO manages to burn less fuel than an F350. 5 to 10% less at cruising speeds and a whopping 12% less at wide open throttle.
There are so many secondary stories here. The electronic power steering, for example, it is incredible, but it's variable based on speed. So at low speed, you have almost no resistance to the wheel. The faster you go, it generates resistance and slows the ratio down to make the boat feel more planted.
This steering system is faster than a hydraulic system without any cumbersome fluids. It was designed to work with Helmmaster for precise digital control and easy docking. It also allows the engine to swing 31 degrees to either side for extreme maneuvers. In fact, we were almost able to submerge the gunnel on a 27-foot bay boat.
The attention to detail in this engine is fantastic. I mean, it'll tilt up 73 degrees and come completely out of the water, but the front of the cowl was designed to make sure it didn't interfere with the transom at all. Now, if you notice, the nose cone is sitting completely out of the water in this boat, and that nose cone will sit about 5.3 inches higher than an F350.
That might not be a big deal in freshwater, but it is a huge asset against corrosion in saltwater. Another challenge with outboard engines is reverse thrust. Exhaust gases exiting through the prop hub mix with water, causing the prop to ventilate or slip.
Yamaha's come up with a very ingenious solution. They've got a secondary exhaust port above the ventilation plate. And what that does allows the propellers to grab very clean water when you go into reverse.
There's so much clean thrust that Helmmaster limits RPM in reverse.
One of the things we were told is it makes so much power and the expectation to go offshore is so high, they doubled their durability standard for these engines. If there was 500 hours required for testing, they doubled it to 1,000.
Boat companies like Jupiter and Grady White power their boats exclusively with Yamaha outboards. As a package, the 425 XTO provides OEMs with more power and a very clean install. For those of us looking to repower, it may even allow you to reduce your engine count. Regardless of application, the XTO certainly has changed the game.
Lund Harbor is a funky little fishing village with about 300 permanent residents, and it's a popular spot for boaters. Welcome back to beautiful British Columbia, and on board a Meridian 341 from Desolation Sound Yacht Charters. We've made it to Desolation Sound Provincial Park, which was founded nearly 200 years after Captain George Vancouver gave the sound its name. The park's been protected since 1973. And there are more than 60 kilometers of shoreline, including multiple islands. This, right here, Prito Haven, is one of the 3 major anchorages within the park. And it can be packed in the high season. So, taking the stern tie game up a notch, there are chains in the rocks along the northern shore, and you can use them so you don't swing around, and they help fit in more boats. We're in 13 meters, so we're in 40 feet. Tide's gonna go up 10 feet, and we got the chain directly behind us. So pull forward a little bit, drop it, do the backup thing.
I think so.
Sharp shells on the rock make securing the stern chains at low tide a bit tricky, but it's nothing you can't tackle. The links are even big enough to fit a large line through. And when you're secured, you're in a postcard picture-worthy location. Protected, calm, and quiet, but with mountains and trees. The next day, the winds had kicked up for our 15 nautical mile run around Sarah Point and down toward Lund through the Tulin Passage, named after the Swedish brothers who founded the town of Lund back in the 1800s. Lund Harbor is a funky little fishing village with about 300 permanent residents. Maybe. And it's a popular spot for boaters. But they don't do advanced reservations, so you need to radio in for a slip assignment. And the harbor master will not assign a slip until you're within line of sight, so this is a true last-minute call-in.
Skyrider, Lund Harbor, go ahead.
Hi there, we're looking to come in and tie up for the night. Just wondering where we should go.
Alrighty, I'm going to bring you in on the south side of A dock, south side of Alpha. It would be a bow in port tie or stern in starboard if you prefer.
Perfect, easy. Though small and without reservations, Harbor Master Darlene told me she has not turned a boat away yet, but every vessel in here has to be willing to raft off, as that's the norm on busy days. It's officially fishing focused, but there's always room for recreational boats. Lund is a great spot because you can resupply everything from fuel to food and beer to baked goods. But of course, you gotta pay the piper first. Oh, forecast. Ooh, strong wind warning.
It is breezy.
Be a little bumpy tomorrow.
I would think it's going to be a big bumpy, going to 25 knots.
But that's a tomorrow problem. Right now, our mission is to see if the repeated recommendations from fellow boaters live up to the hype. Without fail, when we mentioned Lund, we were told to come right here. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. We've heard all about the cinnamon buns, so we're gonna do a sampler platter. 4, pick 2.
Pecan, old chocolate orange.
I could say something about my recommendation being linked to supporting local businesses, which I love to do, but that's secondary to even the smell of this place alone. Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much.
Whoa. The other must-do recommendation we got was to leave the harbor in this, Martin's Taxi, a 1947 Hudson that was actually a cab back in the day down in Philadelphia, and now it's here of all places.
Really good
Thanks.
to meet you. Yeah, no.
Beautiful car. This is my phone, Brian.
Brian,
My
nice to meet
pleasure.
you.
He's going to be very excited about the car.
Is that right? Yeah.
He was a
I'm an old car guy.
Is that
mechanic
right?
and
Yeah.
everything.
Okay.
We can fix it if it breaks down.
Oh, well, you may be called on.
There's a great restaurant on the other side of the peninsula. It's about a 12-minute ride. That's $50 round trip, but totally worth it. Not just to cruise in a classic car like this, but because every penny of that $50 goes to the SPCA, because Martin volunteers his time and his car to raise money. Brian has taught me as much about cooking as he has about boating, and we usually whip up a feast on the boat. But as the sun was setting over Desolation Sound on our final night, we treated ourselves to some of the best seafood we've ever had anywhere, with the best backdrop around. Our big journey ended with a 25 nautical mile run from the dock at Lund to the fuel dock at Comox Municipal Marina. And clearly, British Columbia was as sad to say goodbye as we were to leave.